All right, welcome back to a very special episode of Keeping It Real. I don't think we've had this many people on before, but this is a very special market, and I wanted to pull in our panel of experts and figure out COVID-19 and the market. Where do we go from here? So we have joining us today Jason Simard from Nanaimo, California, Todd Tramonte from
Very proud of that Canadian angle, so don't.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Todd Tramonte from Dallas, Greg Harrelson from Myrtle Beach, and Lisa Chinatti from Chelmsford, Massachusetts. And what I'd like to do is just kind of go around for those of you who are not familiar with our panelists today and just give a little introduction. How long have you been in the business, and what's going on in your market? So we'll kick this off here with Jason. Go ahead.
All right. Well, my name's Jason Simard. I've been in real estate since November 2015. Run a team right now. We have 7 licensed agents. We do about 250 deals a year. And I'm a full-time coach now as well. So, I've been able to exit production in my business in 3.5 years. And that's me.
My next. I can't see the order.
Todd, you're up.
Cool. I'm Todd Tramonte. Run a brokerage and a team in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. And I got involved in real estate in probably 2001 and did nothing but flip houses for a couple of years and just kind of backed into getting my real estate license, made a lot of mistakes, do not have one of these rapid growth stories at all. Was really stubborn and resisted coaching and learning and growing and in humility for a long time. And learned a lot of things the hard way and didn't learn a lot of things for a long time. And then began to I actually got into a franchise for a while, a flat fee discount franchise, and began to transition out of that in 05. So whatever the total years there is, 20 something years in sort of a team model, growing towards role specialization and kind of where we are now. And I get really, really fired up about helping our team and other agents through coaching and some stuff like that, really dig into adding great value and really bringing real estate to the level of a CPA or an attorney or a family doctor. And with that has come some higher fees and compensation and better positioning. And so I love to help and share and learn about that stuff.
Great. Lisa?
So I'm Lisa Chinatti. I'm outside of the Boston suburbs. I have a little bit of a different travel or journey in real estate. I got my license for the first time in 2004. Never sold a house, let my license expire, and kind of technically became one of the 80% failure rates that we hear about in the industry. And then I got my license back in 2010, sold part-time for a few years, had my massive year 2016, started my team in 2017, and here we are.
All right. And Greg, how about you?
You guys saved the old guy for last, huh? I got it. Okay. I see how this is going to go. So I got into real estate probably back in, mid 90s, late 90s. I've been in it 20 plus years, maybe 25 years about. Opened up a franchise, Century 21 franchise back in 1999 with my father. My father retired probably, 10, 12, 13 years ago. And, I've just been building a team / brokerage, kind of like a hybrid model, really. And I'm in 3 different markets: Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm running a hub and spoke model. It's very much of a coaching model. So I spend majority of my time, my day, coaching real estate agents, developing talent, as I say. The operations, we closed around 3,800 total transactions last year. I've been involved with Real Geeks since just about the beginning, Kevin. I think I was one of your first. I was probably a guinea pig. I thought I was one of
you
your.
Were.
I thought I was just a client, but I think later on I figured out that I was just a guinea pig, and it kind of worked out for all of us, I think.
Yep. We tested a lot of stuff out on you.
Now you tell me.
Great. So thanks everyone for the little introduction. And I'd like to just kick it off. How have you shifted your business strategy through this period? What are you doing to adjust? And I'll go back around backwards, just start off with Greg. what are you doing to adjust your business strategy to deal with the shift in the market?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to my mind is first of all, let me identify what my interpretation of the shift is. My interpretation of the shift is we have shifted from certainty to uncertainty, which is really an emotion, right? And so because that's my interpretation of the shift, then the way I'm responding to that is I'm responding in a way from a consumer facing standpoint. We're really careful at the language that we're using, the conversations we're having. And instead of focusing on how many contacts we can make today, we're focusing on how many connections we can make today. And just the difference in contact and connection, when we're approaching it that different way, then that'll change our tone, that'll change our the words that we use and things like that. So we're really shifting the communication to really focus on listening to the uncertainties that are out there in the consumer's minds, and then seeing what certainties we can bring back into their conversations. What are the conversations that we need to have with them to make them see us as a solution? And then the other side of it, from an ownership standpoint, I'm doing the same thing with my agents. I'm making sure that I spend more quality time with them. I made a commitment that anyone in my operations, their real estate IQ is going to increase by 100% within the next 30 days. So it just shows that I'm just fully, going all in coaching, in guiding, and just helping them navigate through the turmoil that we're dealing with right now. Those are the main things that I'm focusing on.
Lisa, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so all of that, but I think the biggest thing that we're kind of focusing on here with the team and with the agents is adapting, right? And that the landscape is kind of changing, partly due to the uncertainty, but I think we've been due for this change for a long time. And so the kind of examples that we're using within our office are companies like Blockbuster, right? One of the discussions we were having in our Slack today was, Blockbuster didn't go out of business because people stopped watching movies or they stopped watching movies in their home. Blockbuster went out of business because they failed to adapt to the way that the consumer wanted to obtain that movie, right? So that's a big part of what we've been doing, is learning to, or figuring out, strategizing how to adapt so that we come out of this in the way that I think the industry is going to change moving forward.
I think that makes sense. Todd?
Yeah, again, I'll say I echo all of that. I think there's kind of two lanes of this thing. One is a strategic way that we're adjusting, and then one is like a technical way, right? So I'll go reverse. From a technical perspective, we're leaning unbelievably more on Zoom and FaceTime and digital DocuSign, all those kind of things than we ever have. I've been really thoroughly impressed with our team and our coaching consulting clients in the way that they're still converting. I think we signed 4 new clients yesterday, all on Zoom. We'd never met any of them. That's some of that is not going to change when we quote go back, right? And in so many ways, that is a beautiful thing. In some ways, we need to be careful that we don't take that as this unearned advantage and lose connection with people and lose value that we're delivering. So my like obsession is to deliver world-class value. It's kind of a cheesy sounding thing. I maybe ought to come up with a better name, but the thing that when the market moves, if you don't move that value and that goal with it, you might wake up with a new business in 6 months where, yeah, you're doing a bunch of Zoom and DocuSign, but you forgot to inject a tremendous amount of relationship and value and care and concern for people. My greatest desire is to have impact in people's lives. And if real estate's a good way to do it, great, we'll keep doing real estate. So from a technical perspective, listen, we're calling it zero touch showings. Our agent is only showing a house in the absolute essential scenario. We're calling them decision showings, right? Everything can be done virtually until someone's ready to make a decision. If I'm going to go see it, if it doesn't let me down, I'm going to make an offer on that. That's about the only time we're showing property right now. I think we all need to be very careful and responsible with some of these essential tags we have. It's not a license to go infect the earth and brag about how cool and important you are. It's my personal opinion. when it's important and essential, we're doing what we call zero touch showing. So our agent has a glove on and a hand in the pocket. No one's touching anything. We have shoe covers too. Most people aren't using, the sellers aren't asking us to use them, but we have them. Hand sanitizer, washing up when we get out of there, going our own way and doing offers and everything online. We're showing property virtually online, minimizing that list of homes a buyer wants to see to a very small list. So there's a lot of technical stuff like that. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that. And then the strategic side, and when we prepped for this presentation, we had a great conversation back and forth. We'll probably unpack that. But my big goal there is to think long-term. So these technical adjustments are to keep transactions going, to keep people employed in the next 30, 60, 90 days. The long-term strategy is, what are we doing today so that we're a better business in 6 months or 6 years? And so we can talk more about that, but those are the two places we're trying to make adjustments right now.
Definitely. Jason, how about you?
Yeah. So, everything that everybody's mentioned is incredibly important and things that we're doing. And one thing that I'm really doing right now, the battle I think is going to be won or lost in between the ears. This is a mental battle for people right now. And so you can surround yourself with people that are panicked, fear driven, and watch CNN and all these headlines all day long, or you can shift towards action. So what I'm doing is I've shifted everything, and we're a very action oriented company, but we've taken that to a whole new level. So we realize we're going to have to work twice as hard for half the money right now. And so my plan is I want to make sure that our group, we're the least broke people in this downturn, because there's no question we're all going to have to make less money for a while. Okay. That's just something you have to come to reality with. So what we're doing is we're having 2 meetings a day with our team, one in the morning, where we set our goals for the day, and we kind of like set, we have some really positive tone to the day. And then at 4:30, we get a team meeting and we talk about our wins of the day. And what's been incredible with that is it's providing a lot of support to everybody, because people are realizing like, hey, we're busy, we're doing things right now. Like, things are happening still. It's not the end of the world. We've had to adapt, but we're staying strong. We're kind of like creating our own little bubble right now, and we're bringing people in that have that same mindset. So this is a time you can be a tiger, or you can be a lamb that gets slaughtered, and we're choosing to be tigers right now. I thought that was fitting with the Tiger King being
Did
so
you say
popular.
just to be clear, did you say tiger? Is that what you said?
The tiger, yeah. So time to be a tiger right now. Definitely. If you're not going to take action at massive levels, then you're going to get left behind. And it's the great reset, really, for anybody that's looking at this as a long-term opportunity. You can pick up market share right now in this downturn. And empathy is a big one too. I think people kind of touched on that, but we're adjusting our conversations, and it's more about, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And then basically from that, we're getting to find out who are the emotional ones that are really struggling, and then we're providing them a positive message that has nothing to do with real estate to make them feel better. But then for the people that are seeing this as an opportunity and saying, well, you know what, we see this as an opportunity, then we're able to shift the conversation towards, well, hey, let's talk about how our other clients are capitalizing right now. So, in some markets, it's been so hot in certain price points that, multiple offers were a norm, which is really difficult for buyers. Well, this may just create opportunity for those people to be able to get some quick wins now that maybe they wouldn't have in the past. So that's kind of how we're shifting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've got a lot of questions coming in specifically around shifting conversations. If you're on a video, what are some things that you can say in this market to make that connection? I'll let anyone jump in that has a good idea.
We were go ahead, Jason, go ahead.
It's as simple as just, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's your family? Get real, connect, get them to open up. Once they start opening up, you can sort of be able to guide where the conversation goes. Do they need somebody to just be a cheerleader right now and uplift them? Or are these people that are seeing immediate opportunities, because they're going to start opening up, and then you shift the conversation based on that. But just start with empathy. You come from a place of caring and just genuine concern for people right now. That's probably the best place to be. If you're not calling every single one of your past clients, people in your sphere, and having high levels of communication right now, I feel like you're missing a big opportunity. Go ahead, Todd.
We were on a group coaching role play call the other day, and we just, you got to be careful saying like throw all the scripts out of the door, because there's some salesmanship that still makes sense to lead people to the outcome that's best for them. But what Jason just said is essential, because you got to discern what is best for somebody right now. If somebody was a red hot buyer of yours 2 weeks ago and they lost their job, it's not the best thing to persuade them towards home ownership. It's probably not even possible. But we were kind of talking about this dual approach, right? Where one of them is, it is important for us to educate people on the realities of the market because there's so much confusion out there, right? And I always say a confused mind says no, right? In confusion, people kind of recede back into inaction, right? I'm just going to sit and wait this thing out. I don't really know what's going on. I'm not sure who to trust, so I'm going to do nothing, right? There are some people that still need to and have appropriate reasons to be transacting real estate business right now. And then, like Jason said, there's some people that really, really want to because they see some opportunities. There's nothing wrong with somebody transacting real estate right now, but we need to feel out their need and be a little bit more open and supportive of some people just not being ready. In a traditional market, I'm training my agents when someone says, I don't know, that you lean into that. In this scenario, you're going to lean into it, but very differently. Like, great. You know what? I asked a question on a role play call that everybody was like, man, that's killer. And I was like, really? And the question was just, hey, is there anything, Kevin, that you don't know right now that you would feel much better if you did know?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
I'd like to know what's going to happen with the real estate market. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll role play that with you real quick. If it was in Dallas Fort Worth, I'd say, hey, Kevin, look, nobody has a crystal ball. And obviously some things have happened lately that none of us saw coming. I mean, I certainly didn't. I'm not going to lie to you. Here's my expectation. And then I would kind of unpack where I think we're going. And I think we're going to have a pretty intense recovery once the restrictions are lifted and people feel free to move about. I think there may be kind of a second round of like, oh, okay, we kind of exhausted that pent up demand. And now what world are we living in? But I would walk them through those steps and give them clarity on that. And I'd say, look, I can't give you 100% certainty on it, but I've been doing this for 21 years or whatever. I feel really, really strongly about that. But that education piece is that whether or not they're ready, it's still important sometimes to say, hey, did you know that over the weekend, 724 houses went on the market in our area and 440 something have sold and closed? So things are happening. Doesn't mean you should, but it does mean you could if you were, so there's an education piece and then there's kind of a connection, empathy, understanding piece. That's how we're trying to approach it as far as a macro, overarching approach.
And can I add to that for us? And in addition to both of those things, I think one of the biggest opportunities that I see is actually not at all related to real estate necessarily, but to really building our brand. So we've been focusing on social media through the pain points of folks in our communities, right? We're all homeschooling our kids. We're all trying to juggle working from home while homeschooling our kids. And often the consumers they're not even able to have that conversation because it's not even in the back of their mind. But if we can put out the content that helps with what are the pain points of homeschooling your kids, how do you get the resources for doing that? It's just building long-term brand recognition more than having any direct impact on today or tomorrow and lead gen. But I feel like that's going to pay off when combined with the strategies that both those guys talked about, right?
Can I ask you a follow-up on that, Lisa?
Yeah.
On your team, whose job is that? Whose responsibility is that?
To put out that content?
Yeah, to brand your business, to position you as, a community member, a resource, not just a real estate sales organization.
I think that's kind of what my role has evolved to over the past year or so. So I'm working closely with our leadership team and our videographer, because most of what we're putting out is through video content. Yeah. That's the reality, right? And then our job is to be able to get that content into the hands of our agents. So it's distributed on our team business pages. But more than that, it's also giving our agents the ability to put that out as well.
I love that. And one of the reasons I asked is because I know a bunch of people watching and listening are a solo agent or a kind of a very early stage team or whatever, and they don't have all these staff members. I'm pretty sure Lisa would echo this, but right now there's a pretty good chance you have a little bit of extra time. Now, trust me, the first few weeks of all this, I felt like, well, who are these people with the extra time? I'm constantly working, trying to maintain some semblance of control. But in reality, I don't like to say it out loud and acknowledge it, but many of us are probably going to experience a decrease in transactional activity over the next, 6 or 8 weeks or whatever. With that, even a solo independent agent, even if you're really new, you can give some time to what Lisa just said, right? So I just don't want someone to hear this and be like, okay, everyone's a team leader or a broker or an owner, and I can't do any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. if you're working 4, 5, 6 hours a day right now on super intentional, smart business building stuff, you're killing it. I think,
Oh yeah, no doubt.
tons of agents are taking 4 naps a day right now, right? Watching a lot of TV. If you're prospecting and lead generating and following up as much as you normally do, or a little bit more, you're killing it. If you do that 5 days a week, you're killing it. And so then if you spent 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day doing a little bit of more focused social media or outbound marketing, one-to-many marketing to position your company or brand, whatever word you like, I think even an individual agent can do that. We're big supporters of the food bank. I won't go into a ton of detail, but that's one of the ways that we want to lean into the community and love on people. And it's allowed for a lot of people to get to know us who aren't going to buy or sell anything in the near term. And an individual agent could do that too. That was the point I wanted to make. So anyway, Greg, looked like you had some brilliance to drop on us.
No, I was just thinking, as a Real Geeks user for a moment, whether you're a team or a brokerage or a solo agent, I think one of the most important things that we could be doing right now, because in the conversation y'all just had, we touched on, video. And I think that's what the first question was what kind of video. And then Todd, you just mentioned about whoever's being active and out there, still lead generating, they're killing it right now. And I do agree with that. And it's really a combination of those two. It's incorporating video with lead generation. That really seems to be working well right now. So, for Real Geeks users out there, we all have some number of leads or people names in our database right now. And the key is that no matter how many names you have in your database, whether it's 100,000 or whether it's 500, every single one of those people at one point when you captured them had some time frame in mind that they were going to conduct a transaction. Okay. Well, with the latest, things going on in America or across the world right now, you can pretty much guess and bank on that every single one of those people has had a shift in their time frame. So somebody who was thinking about buying next month might be thinking about holding off for a couple months, or somebody that was thinking in a couple months, something may have occurred and they need to move up their plans and do it now. The key is the only one that knows what their new time frame is them, not you, the agent. So now you've got email drips and things still going out to them, and you're texting things and you have all this automation going out to them, but it might not be resonating with them because they've shifted their timeline. So now we got to go back in and take what Todd's saying. Hey, those that are lead generating are killing it. And some of you might say, well, God, I don't want a cold call. Well, that's not what Todd said. He said those that are actively actually generating, right? So take your database, call them, first check in with them and ask them, how are they doing? Is your family okay? Are things going good? We spoke in the past and I just wanted to see, what I could be doing to better serve you at this time. And then they're going to automatically come up with, well, we're probably going to hold off until 2 more months. We're probably not going to come into town until this time. Job relocation is shift till this time. So now what you've done is you're identifying everybody's new time frame. So then you can then put them in the proper bucket. I think that's what Real Geeks users should be doing yesterday and continue to do it until they've touched every single one. My idea would be this: you call them, and if they don't answer the phone, don't leave a message. Have a video already pre-done on your phone and text them a video. And it could say, hey, Greg Harrelson here, just wanted to touch base with you, checking in to make sure everything's okay. Hopefully you're healthy, everything's fine. And just was thinking about you as I was going through my files and whatnot. If there's anything you need, just reach out to me. I'm here. I'm still working. I might be working from home. If you call me, you might hear my dog, my cat, my children, but just know that I'm still working. A little video like that will get huge response.
Yeah, I love that. Go ahead.
We've changed up our drip campaigns. All of our sequences are similar, but we've softened the language even more so, just to kind of be in line with the times right now. So we've made shifts in how we're communicating and acknowledging kind of where we're at and the fact that, hey, we're still working. We're all working from home safely. We're still here to support you. We understand that this is a scary time, but know that we're here. There's still things going on and we're here to provide value. But we have a full system that we do with conversion and stuff like that. But the language has been softened even more so. And our approach is very client centric anyways. We don't do the hard sell approach. We use more of a concierge approach, which is perfect, is working really well, especially now. Our contact rates are through the roof. I don't know if you guys are noticing that, but we're talking to more people than we normally do. And we talk to a lot of people
for longer, right?
And yeah, and we're having just real good, genuine conversations, you know, and just connecting with people on a deeper level. And, you know, Greg, I was listening to one of your videos recently, and, you know, what stood out to me is you talked about how, look, the sales cycle has just gotten extended, right?
Mhm.
In some cases, you know, it might've been a 3 to 6 month cycle. Now it might be 12 to 18 months, but those are all future paychecks that are going to be just as valuable. And so you have to really keep your focus right now on the things that work, like your lead gen and your database and your prospecting. You still have to do those activities now, and just be prepared that you might have a longer delayed gratification for your work. But those that can stay focused on that right now will absolutely come out the other side of this and thrive, because there is now business. You just got to grind really hard to find it, but it's there. You know, there's people that have to make moves right now. So look for those. And the only way to get there is to talk to them. And if you don't talk to them, they're not going to tell you what's on their mind. So, you know, it's not rocket science, I realize.
I got a couple notes already from you guys. I'm always taking notes. There's no way I show up to these things not looking to learn. And a couple things. I raised my hand while Greg was talking because I thought I knew what you were going to say, and I didn't, which was great because I got a new nugget. But what I thought you were going to say is every single one of those people that signed up on your Real Geeks site asked you for help in some regard, right? They said, I would like to continue searching on your site. I would like some form of future communication. Now, we all know some of them said like, fine, I'll deal with some future communication so I can tinker on your website. We know that. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to change in your head the idea that calling these people is cold calling. And if you're not a Real Geeks user and you're watching this, whatever, if you have a lead database, CRM, whatever, I call them home search leads. If someone signed up on your site to search homes or get their property valuation, I don't know, check the weather, whatever you're offering, the fact is they volunteered their information with some level of expectation of some follow-up. So do that, right? I know some states right now have like literally outlawed true cold calling, you know, just picking up the phone and calling someone that has no understanding of who you are whatsoever. There's still a lot that can be done in that environment. And just to be reminded, they on some level have an expectation that you're going to reach out and try to help them out a little bit. So that message should be received with some familiarity, if not gratitude. The other thing that I'm in a bunch of groups where I'm constantly, you know, sharing and learning. And one thing that I can't remember who shared it. I'd love to give them credit, but they just said, they're seeing tremendously different results when they talk about moving versus buying or selling right now. Buying and selling just sounds really transactional, and the idea of moving feels more sensible, appropriate, and approachable. And so we even tweaked our radio ads to start talking about moving as opposed to selling. Most of our radio outbound stuff is seller focused, but we started talking about moving, and we've seen a little uptick. And then I think it's important to try to get our heads around how dramatically different this market is, right? There's so many things we normally do that we're not doing. We're not in the car much, right? Most real estate agents are in the car a couple hours a day, if not more, right? So with that time, you can fill it with a lot of things. Greg talked about his team. He wants them to increase their real estate IQ 100%, right? On our team, we do this thing we call the master's program. Every quarter, we just say, hey, if you spent 1 hour every day for the next 90 days, you would spend more hours studying a subject than a master's degree student spends in the classroom. Now, obviously, they spend a lot of outside the classroom, but the point is you could gain an incredible level of mastery if you focused on one topic every 90 days. And so if you just took one of those hours every day and said, I'm going to get really, really, really good or much, much, much better at something, how good could you be when this is all over? Let's just say you're 75 days, we're kind of cooped up, things aren't normal, don't even feel close to normal. And every day you spend an hour on generating referrals, or an hour on mastering your database, or an hour on sales skills. Oh my gosh. Even if your pipeline was a little bit thin coming out of this, you're going to be a ninja. You're going to be, what are all your so-called competitors doing right now? Watching Tiger King. Sorry, Lisa. Lisa's doing fine, and she's also watching Tiger King. The cat is
I
out of the
only made
bag.
it
See what I
through
did, Jason? The cat's out of the bag. Come on. I didn't hit the button either, Kevin.
I wish you could
Thank
hit
you.
the button. I wish you could hit the
Self-control.
button.
Man,
It was
Todd,
so appropriate at that time.
That could have been, there we go. Thank you, Todd. I got a question. I know Lisa and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, but how are you leveraging technology right now in this market? Is there any new things that you're doing or things that you've always done that are working well in this market?
So we've gone super virtual, right? I think that kind of the interesting conversation that I've been having in my office, kind of with other folks in the industry, I think most people I know have heavily invested in things like Matterport and video of our listings to offer that experience. And while I think that they're hugely important, I think the one thing that I'm learning as a takeaway from it all is I don't think that we as realtors are ever going to become obsolete. I don't see, kind of like I think Todd mentioned earlier, your showings that you're doing as the final make the decision showing, I don't think that ever goes away, right? I think no matter how much we do with it, people still need to see it, and they need to hear it, and they need to feel it and sense it. But that being said, I think as we come out of this, I think the consumer is going to expect a different experience. And I think that they're going to expect a lot more of these virtual showings as their first showing before they make it into the decision showing. So for us, it's been things like Matterport. We're heavily invested in Zoom. We're putting virtual tours everywhere. I know our MLS allows us to put them into MLS listings so that they push through. I know Real Geeks has been working very closely with us to get the virtual tour link onto our coming soon listings. And I think that that's all just kind of part of being able to adapt through all of this. And for us, the rest of the technology is, I think, still kind of morphing, right? Slack, Zoom that we're all on right now, Calendly. It's so many different things, but I think they're going to maintain a piece, but not take over our businesses.
Kevin, I want to say something on that. What I'm learning through this whole process, I mean, obviously I'm using Zoom more, but I was using Zoom already, and a lot of us were. But what just crossed my mind is like, for most of us, we don't need more technology. We actually just need to start executing on the technology we already have, And, I know that, sometimes it's tempting to say, oh gosh, I need this and I need that. But then when we look at what we already have and the level of implementation or integration and execution of that is so low. So why do we need to continue to go to something new when we haven't used what we already have? And what makes you think that we're going to actually implement something new when we have a pattern of not fully executing and implementing what we have? So the technology that we're doing is we're actually just leveraging at a higher level what we already have, not necessarily adding on a bunch of more stuff.
And I would say it's the same thing with leads for so many people, right? It's like, man, everything's crazy. I need more leads. What if you just called all the ones you had?
Hey, can I speak on that? Because I wrote a note down here, and so my CFO, he's a data head, and that's his job, right? And he gave me some interesting stats the other day, and he took a 1 week picture. That was last week. Okay, last week. It might have incorporated the weekend, but last week we had a 40% decrease in new leads. Okay, and that's there's disruption, so that's okay. It's gonna come and go. But we had a 500+% increase in the activity of the leads that we already had in our database. Meaning they were looking at more properties, favored in more properties, responding better than they've ever responded. So at a 40% decrease in new leads just in a short period of time, but that same period of time, we had a 500+ increase in activity. To Todd's point, man, we are so busy just communicating with the people that are already there that are now showing signs of life. So don't neglect that, or don't ignore that part of your database right now.
Yeah, I've got a list right here that I'll read real quick just to get it out there for people that may really need to understand some of those resources. But we're using a ton of Zoom. We've been using it forever. DocuSign, FaceTime, video editors, cell phone scanner app, virtual notaries, virtual initial consultation strategies, detailed process discussions that are online now where they used to be in print only. More property documentation than ever, by the way. Instead of only having a disclosure, now it's like every warranty we can find because there's less physical interaction. We want them to feel more associated with things. So refrigerator warranty, the type of tile, I mean, like everything you can provide that just weights them down with this is real. And the question is technology, but it's delivering these things through technology as opposed to just manually. What else did I put here? Social proof to support all of that, and there's a few other things, but the point I wanted to make is we named them now, right? But I think Greg's point is a great point, is you don't need to go buy a new app or anything now. I mean, you might, if you've like never used Zoom, you should probably get that, but for most of us, use what you've got, learn all the features and functions you never used, and use it better, or get more people to adopt that technology or that kind of thing. There's so many things I want to share, but I wanted to at least read the names of some things so we did get it out there.
Got it. I had a question come in. Advertising, marketing. Is this a time that people should be pulling back on how much money they're spending on advertising? Keep it the same? Should people be spending more? What do you guys think? Does anyone?
I think it all comes down to what it takes business maturity. You've got to be able to understand how to calculate an ROI, a return on your investment. If you're getting a return, then yes, keep going, because it's an investment. If you're doing something and you can't track a return, you're not getting a return, then I call that an expense. And those are the things that I'd start looking at. Maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. I can't blanket a statement and say, no, you should stop, because that would be irresponsible of myself to do that. But I think what you should be going through, and what I'm going through, is I'm saying, every expense is not necessarily an expense. There could be something that you're sending money to that's actually an investment, and that's going to be measured whether or not you're getting a return. So if you can measure a return, then I don't say you stop. But if you can't measure a return, then I start saying you need to question it. Now, there could be some things that's hard to measure a return that you're doing, but through experience from branding and goodwill and things that you're creating in your marketplace, that what that's going to do for you later on. And those people that do those methods, I'm sure that they have a calculation to figure that out, and it's logical that they would continue.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jason.
My 2 cents in that is, obviously you got to look at your own personal financial circumstances. If you have no savings and you have no money, you don't really have a choice, right? But if you do have some savings and you do have a war chest to kind of get you through the next 6 to 12 months of volatility, keep your foot on the gas pedal, keep investing in those areas in your business that are generating your business. Like these guys just mentioned, if you're getting an ROI right now, even if you're getting a friggin' 1x return on investment right now, it's money that you're making. Anything you're making money on, I would not take the foot off if you can avoid it, because it's going to make your recovery so much harder. If you don't keep that pipeline full right now and nurture all those relationships along the way, how are you going to come out of this strong? It's going to be a bloodbath for you. And then there's going to be people like us that are really keeping our foot on the gas pedal and are going to continue to move forwards. And we're going to pick up a lot of that market share, sadly. So don't allow yourself to be one of those people. If you can, please keep the smart investments, cut out the bad costs, the things that you don't need. But absolutely, if you can, I would stay focused on what's putting butter on your bread every day.
Yeah. 2 quick thoughts. Number one is Jason made a really important point, which is where's your current financial situation, right? So in a perfect world, you've got cash reserves, and cash reserves afford you, in my opinion, the greatest freedom of any business strategy whatsoever. If I could give anybody just one basic, what's the most powerful thing in your business? Cash reserves. Gives you the ability to make decisions with a clear head and analyze data and information better. assuming you're in a good spot, cutting is not the only option. I mean, I would echo what these guys just said. So without adding to that and just echoing it, I would say cutting in that zero, all or nothing are not your only two options, right? You can renegotiate the cost of things, right? I cut our entire radio bill in half this month, but I didn't cut any radio. Now, the truth is, let me admit this, I'm paying half as much as I was, and I'm pretty sure I'm paying for less than half of the audience. I understand that. But I also understand the legitimate direct ROI and the indirect ROI of radio. We can remarket and repurpose that content like crazy, and there's a lot of value that we get off air. So I'm not telling everybody to go do radio. That was just an example of what otherwise is looks like a high cost item. But when we understand the ROI of it and we can renegotiate the cost, that changes that ROI metric for us. So you could look at that on your rent. You could look at that on your copier fees. I mean, there's a lot of places you could say, hey, what can we do for the next few months? You know, even if you tack it on to the end of something and deal with it later. But the fact of the matter is, if you go cut marketing and sales off, what's your long-term plan? Right? If you can cut your rent or your copier bill or drop down some of those true expenses that don't directly lead to return or culture or client or staff or whatever, even if you're a solo agent, that's where I would be looking to cut. When it comes to marketing and sales and lead gen and opportunities, I might try to minimize my expenses a little bit, but I would be very careful to cut unless, like Jason said, that's food money. And if that's the case, you got to do what you got to do to take care of yourself.
Yeah, totally. And there's a lot of free ways that you can generate business, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of old school tried and true methods that still work that you can totally go to. But for some of us that are investing in specific lead generation platforms and things that we're doing, it would make no sense to cut those out if you can afford to keep them going. It just would be crazy. You're almost slitting your own throat when you do that, I believe, because how do you recover when you have no pipeline? Pipeline is what gives you confidence during these downturns. I have confidence right now because I know we have a pipeline and I know that we're continually working the opportunities. And like Greg mentioned, you know, yes, we're seeing less leads right now, but we're seeing a higher level of engagement as well. I don't have it broken down into stats, but I can tell you it's significant. Like, we're in the time that I'm sitting here with you guys right now, I can see the interactions that our inside sales agent team is having right now with prospects. And the information that we're getting is amazing. Like, as we're sitting here right now, we're getting so many connections. And I know that's happening out there. So you got to keep your rod in the water, your fishing rod in the water, I think.
I do want to say, though, for the folks that can't, right, because the reality is in all of our markets, there are agents that are not in the position to continue their marketing budgets with the big players out there, right? But I also know that those agents have got probably thousands of leads, right? They all have 1,000 to 2,500 leads sitting in their database. And so I would just want to point out that just because you might have to scale back or pull out of what you're currently investing doesn't mean that your pipeline has to dry up if you can be smart about working what you've already got in there. I think, you know, for us, we made the decision to scale back a little bit, but what we're finding is we're helping our conversion, right? We've got over 40,000 leads sitting in our database, and having the agents take the opportunity to really go deep in those will pay off in spades with, you know, if I can even convert a portion of those and double my conversion rates, that increases the profitability, keeps their pipelines full and keeps everything still going. And it's case by case, right? But I would want to say that just because they do pull back doesn't mean that they have to have a dried up pipeline.
And I'll give it a quick tip too, is when I started in the business, I teamed up. I just basically went to an agent that I knew had a whole bunch of unworked internet leads. And I offered that person a very generous split. I offered her 50%. I probably should have offered 25, but anyways, I offered her 50%. And I just said, look, I'm going to work these leads. I'm going to make something happen while I was building up my own lead gen. So if you don't have any money right now, but you have hustle and drive, find some agents who have databases that are sitting on and doing nothing with them. And there's plenty of those people out there. Look for them and just say, look, no risk to you. You only get paid if I get results, and I only get paid if I get results. So it's the best win-win scenario, and create some income that way and get yourself some momentum. At this point,
I think I see 4 of us here who would do that in a minute, right?
Yep.
call any team leader who's a decent team leader and has been one for more than a year, and they've got a bunch of leads that they're struggling to assign to someone that can do the right thing with them, or that we're holding back so we don't bury someone in leads that they can't effectively follow up on, right? So, I mean, absolutely. We've talked about that on our little dual threat thing tons of times. One other thing I'll just mention really quick, because you guys have we've all made the point that there are definitely agents out there, just the circumstance has you in a place where every penny matters and you need to be really, really, really careful. And this is not a big, heavy pitch, but the government stimulus stuff that just came out does help real estate agents. Historically, anytime the government does something like this, it basically overlooks independent contractors and does nothing for us. It's possible that the NAR lobby, finally found a way to really drive some legitimate results for us. Maybe we got lucky. I don't know. But the fact is that the current government stimulus stuff does have quite a bit of legitimate benefit for real estate people. No big pitch, but I'm hosting a Q&A with real CPA and tax attorney tomorrow. If you want to jump on there, it's completely free. There's no obligation. You can just go to realtorstimulus.com. I had to get a domain because I'm addicted to domains. Realtorstimulus.com. It'll be like an hour. I'm just going to ask a question and then let them teach on it forever. So if you want to do that, cool. If not, just make sure you actually research that. Don't let this stuff pass you by. Greg and I were talking about it the other day as it's coming out. Things are changing so fast. Don't believe someone that tells you it won't help you. Do your research and take advantage of as much of it as you can. Because personal opinion, I actually think this thing is going to help people like us. And it's totally intended to keep people from quitting, right? Now that makes sense for W-2 employees. For 1099 real estate agents, brokers, team leaders, that sounds wonky, but they've made an effort through unemployment and tax credits and forgivable loans and low interest loans to actually help us. So if you're in a spot where you're like, I don't know what to do, I really don't have the money to market and lead generate, but I still don't want to quit. Do what Jason just said, find someone who has leads and tell them I'll hustle and I'll only want to get paid for results. But then also look at some of the opportunities that are being offered to us industry wide. I think it can be really, really helpful.
I'm just going to add to what Todd said. One of the things that you need to do right now more than ever is you need to understand every single piece of stimulus that's passed through so that you can be an educator to your clients right now. This is a time, educate your team members, educate your clients, and become that concierge so people are reaching out to you, not about real estate always, but just about anything that they have. And if you can be that resource right now that can provide comfort and say, hey, I know you're struggling right now. I don't know if you knew this, but you actually probably qualify for X. Did you know that hey, I just deferred 6 months worth of mortgage payment with my mortgage provider. Did you know those options were available to you? Make sure you're that resource and communicate. You can create so much great content right now that you can be putting on your social media, sending to your database that's helpful, that will help people during a time that really it's a temporary time. If you think about this whole situation, once we can go back to leading normal lives, I do think that our recovery is going to be fairly quick in the sense that I do think that people want to get back to a normal life. However, these measures are needed right now to help people through the uncertainty. So be an expert on the stimulus packages available, because I think your clients really need that right now. They need someone that can help interpret it and give them the right message.
Yes.
I'd like to have some actionable, immediately actionable advice. So I'd like to hear from each of you. What's the number one thing if you're just maybe a solo agent or someone just getting started and you're sitting around and going, man, I wish I knew what I could do today, right now. I'm going to get off this YouTube stream after it's over. And this is the thing I'm going to do to improve my business. What's something that you would recommend to do?
Well, I'll say this. I think right now you need to surround yourself with people that have the right mindset to keep you in a good action-oriented headspace. So you need to evaluate the people that you're spending time with. If all you're doing is spending your time talking about the end of the world and panic, you're probably not in the right area. So start looking at the people you surround yourself with. And then, like Greg has said many times, throw out your plan A, because we're all in plan B now. And you need something for the next 30 days or 60 days. So create a very short-term plan. And I would have it as simple as, you need to talk to 10 people a day or 20 people a day in your sphere, your past clients, and your database every day. That's something you can control. It's something you can influence, and it's something that can be measured. You can send out 20 text messages per day. You can do 20 bomb videos. These are very simple things that if you just set up a simple little plan like that, and every day, 5 days a week, you did those things, I think you'll keep yourself really busy, and you'll be in an action-oriented space, which is going to make you realize that there's still business happening and you're going to benefit from it. So those would be my two things right off the bat that I would say, if you can do that, I think you'll be just fine.
Love them.
I'll give a couple if you want me to.
Yeah, please
So
do.
it kind of, piggybacks a little bit on what Jason said. What I would do is I would make a commitment. Now, let me tell you what I'd really do. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit better. I would send somebody a $500 check, and I would say, if I actually leave my seat and don't call all of the people in my Real Geeks database, you can cash that $500 check. That's how severe we should be punished if we're actually not calling our database right now. So number one, I'd set up some accountability that would have a severe penalty that if I don't actually follow through and execute on calling my database right now, it costs me money, because it's going to cost you more than $500 if you don't do it. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I would have, as I'm calling everybody, I would send a email through Real Geeks, through the, more of the blasting. I'd send it to that same database, and I'd just give them some sort of update on what's going on in your market right now. Then what I would do, part three of this, is then I would go ahead and then I'd send a video text a day later. And in that video text, I would say something. Yeah, I shot you an email, tried to reach you the other day. Thought I would just send you a video, just let you know I was thinking about it. So it's 1, 2, 3. Doing it in that sequence is very, very important. Then the last thing that I wrote down here, just to give more than just one, is I would use that share button that's on every single listing on the Real Geeks website. I'd hit that share button, and then I would share that to your Facebook page. Share a property that's available, share it on your Facebook page. Now, don't just share it and then forget about it. Share, say maybe two a day, or 1 a day, or 2 every other day, whatever you feel is most appropriate. And then go back and monitor when somebody actually tags somebody about in the comments, because what that means is if you share it and then John Doe tags Jane Doe, then what that really means is John Doe wants Jane Doe to know that a property that probably fits in her criteria is actually available. See, John knows Jane wants to buy, and John wants to make sure Jane sees that property. So when you share it and then somebody tags somebody else, click on the person that tagged, send them a message and say, hey, Jane, I saw John shared this listing with you. I just wanted to check in and see what additional information you need on it.
Yep.
Those would be the things you could do.
That's gold right there.
Love it.
Absolute gold.
And just as a random one-off on that, I about once a month, I'll go find the most expensive listing in our entire MLS off my Real Geeks page and share it that way. It's just one of those like goofy, like, oh my gosh, look at that thing, right? But it's engagement, and people are reminded that you're the real estate person, and that's super cool. They're like, man, is this your listing? You're like, no, that one's not, but I've got a couple pretty amazing, like, it's just an engagement builder. Not a great strategy, but it's something that if you don't know what else to do that every once in a while. It doesn't have to be the biggest or most expensive. It can be the one with the most land or the craziest pool or kitchen or library or whatever, especially if it fits kind of your MO or persona or whatever. I was going to wait for all y'all. So Lisa, what are you thinking as far as quick action?
I was going to wait for you to finish.
I'll go if you want me to. But ladies first. I'm a Texan gentleman there. So
yeah, well, so you guys were all kind of covering the real estate aspect of it. And I think one of the things that I think is also super important is that we don't lose track of ourselves and our families through this. And I know for me, I'm still a mom, right? And that mom side has to weigh out just as much as business owner and realtor sides of me has to weigh out. And so coupling with all of these great work tips, I think it's also hugely important that we're all very cognizant of blocking time for ourselves and our families who need us just as much and maybe even more than they did 4 weeks ago.
Amen.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We talked about on our radio show this week, just the fact that there are these pivotal life moments that all of us look back on, and they're usually really negative, right? JFK assassination, Challenger explosion, 9/11, all the coronavirus is going to be that for pretty much, if you're like 5 years old or older right now, whatever the number age where people start remembering things. But we also have the ability to take control of that memory, this anchor point in our children's lives and our lives right now, and brand it with something really positive. And I've been really leaning in with my team and our coaching group lately, just to say, look, what are you going to brand this with, so that when you look back 30 years from now, you're really proud of how you handled it? Are you going to deepen your relationship with your spouse, with your children? Are you going to get healthy? Are you going to start a new habit that would be a lifelong benefit? I don't know. But I know that most of us have that opportunity. Again, even if you're like me and most days you've been feeling like, where's all this extra time? It is there. I'm not in the car. I'm not, there's all the transitional time burned between meetings and things that I've gained all that back. Now I can easily allocate it to spinning my wheels, or I could allocate it towards being a much better dad or husband or friend or neighbor or whatever. So I love that you made that point. I do want to give a couple more just technical real estate things, because I know that's what people are craving. I would echo what everybody said so far, and just say, look, call every single person in your cell phone that you like. If you've got nothing else to do right now, if you can't think of anything, I would do two things before I call everyone on my cell phone. And those two things will take you like 5 minutes, right? Number one, I would decide what I'm really comfortable talking about, right? Like, hey, how are you guys doing? Do you want to talk about the virus? Do you want to talk about stock market? Do you just want to talk about family? Whatever. Just pick something that you're confident talking about. And then number two, I would grab one or two really great, super recent real estate statistics for our market. Right. And then I would that's as easy as it gets. Now I'm with Greg. A 3-step campaign, a 3-step process is going to be infinitely more successful. But if you're not going to do anything, this would be one great thing. Just pick up your phone. I don't even care where these people live. Just say, hey, how are you doing? What is going on in our world? How's your family? I've just committed to literally calling all the people I care about and asking you how you're doing. And now most of them are going to ask you how you're doing. And you say, look, here's how home is. Work's a little bit crazy right now. I'm trying to stay really, really focused. So, I don't end up out of the business or whatever. And it might blow your mind, because it's blowing mine, that we still had 725 properties go on the market this week. We had 448 properties sell this month. It's amazing me. We're still here to help people, but I just can't believe that many people are still ready. And then see what they say, right? So obviously there's a lot of scripting and things you could follow up on that. But if there's nothing else, every single one of us listening or presenting right now could do that. Even if you don't have Real Geeks, if you don't have a CRM, if you don't have a database, if you've never done an open house and you don't have a sign-in list, you have nothing. You have a little black book or a cell phone or a phone book or a list from the last invitation list you put together or whatever. That would be a place that, I've got tons of things I would do, but that would be a starting place that everyone could do that.
I got 2 quick things. All of us have different mastermind groups that we're involved in, and there's amazing content being put out there right now, like absolutely amazing. Like Todd's page is amazing, Greg's page, Lisa, everybody's putting stuff out. We're doing stuff on our page, and we're bringing in some amazing speakers. And so there's tons of great information for you to explore out there right now. Take advantage of that. I think it's a great time to learn and skill up for sure. This is what this whole reset is about for me. It's like, how do we level up our game and how do we adapt to the situation? We all have the same playing field. So just remember that, as much as like we can all get in self-pity, we're all on the same playing field. So those adapt will conquer, and those that don't won't. And I'll give you one other little tip. This is a great rapport building question. If you're trying to flush out a why with somebody, it's really nice soft dialogue. So I'll role play it with you, Greg. Okay. So I'm just going to use it. So Greg, what is it about your house right now that isn't quite working for you, that has you exploring other options?
Yeah, I would say it's just not quite big enough. I mean, I'd like to have like a gym in the house and, and things like that. And I just don't have any room. And the treadmill's still in my master bedroom.
So see, just that one question, I'm already getting some information. Now I could easily pivot that and say, so if I was to ask your wife that question, Greg, what would she say isn't quite working with the house right now?
She would definitely say the treadmill being in the bedroom is a problem.
Right. So anyways, I could go on and on with that stuff, but there's just a simple question. If you're, like, well, how do I get people to open up when I'm talking to internet leads? There's a simple one right there. It's very soft. It's not, well, why are you, what is it that you're looking for right now? Or why do you hate your house? Well, I don't hate my house. They're going to get in a tug of war. But hey, what is it about your house that isn't quite working for you that has you exploring other options? Exploring is a nice inviting way to kind of get people to open up to you. So if you're going in a little too aggressive, maybe soften your language, because it makes a real difference, because it's all about building communication and trust. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as a little one. That's kind of been any coaching client that I have right now has had that brainwashed, but it works so good because it gets to the true why of people are doing something without really understanding why Greg would want to make a move. How can I help him? I can't. So anyways, just thought I'd throw that out there.
That's kind of the difference of an interrogation and a conversation.
100%. If I feel like I'm being interrogated, guess what? I'm going to give you one word, very short answers, and I'm not going to walk away feeling that was a great experience. But if you ask me great questions, you'll get great responses. Period.
Yep. There's tons of other stuff, Kevin. I think we're all just trying to manage the balance of things. So if there's other questions, let us know. Otherwise, I think we could keep dropping to-dos.
There are a million questions coming in, and I think this has been fantastic, but we are running up against the end of our hour. One in there that I saw that was kind of interesting, I'd like to know the answer to. We were teasing Greg earlier about being the old guy on the call. So, Greg, you made it through 2008, and I'm wondering if you had a strategy, looking back to that time, something that really paid off back then that would really help agents today.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely. And we could go back to 911, because I was actually standing up in my prospecting station and learned about the towers collapsing from somebody that I was cold calling and happened to be in New York. And they're like, well, obviously you haven't seen the news. So I've been through a few, I'll call these disruptions. We could talk about shifts, but shifts, we usually talk about a shift, the market's going up and down. A little too early to determine what's going to happen with the real estate market right this second. So let's just say that the market has been disrupted. And again, this is what I learned, that a shift and a disruption is nothing more than the general population going from certainty to uncertainty. That's it, period. Okay. Now, with that being said, then now I know what my job is. My job is to be a calming voice and bring certainty back into the conversation. Now, here's the key. In order to do that, you actually have to call people. You can't have a conversation without a contact. So so in order for you to actually pull this off, bring certainty back to an uncertain, world, as you do that through communication, through conversation. So I know everyone's trying to avoid it, and everyone always does avoid it. The winners will be the people who will go and communicate calmness and certainty to the greatest number of people. The people who will probably lose market share are the ones that are sitting here saying, oh no, I don't want to talk to anybody. Nobody wants to talk to me. Believe me, everybody wants to talk to somebody that has certainty to offer. That happened in the economic crisis back in 2008. It happened, right around the 911. It happened when my dad was selling real estate and the interest rates were 18 and 19%. And it's happening today. And the same, the people who won and grew their business or built their business during these times are the ones that stayed in communication with the consumer. You got to change the context. You got to change the content, but you don't change the fact that you got to have conversations. And the common thing about all of us right now is we all are big, subscribers and users of Real Geeks. So the common thing is we all have databases. Everybody listening has a database. The winners will call their databases, and the ones that lose the most will actually stare at their databases like deer in headlights. I know that's a little bit strong, but it takes strong right now in order to go ahead and protect yourself from going backwards during these economic times.
Paralysis kills more good businesses than anything. If you just get stuck right now in paralysis, you might as well just throw up a white flag right now, because you're going to get slaughtered. So please don't be that person.
Yeah.
Do something every day. Every time you pick up the phone and you have a conversation, good or bad, it's going to keep you in a good, positive headspace, because you're going to realize there's things still happening. But if you just sit at home right now and watch your Facebook feed and you're on Netflix all day, I promise you, you're going to be crushed by what's coming. So just don't be that person. We're all going to be fine. And anybody watching, if you take action, you'll be fine too. I guarantee it. You just have to be prepared to work a lot harder.
Yep.
And I just want to point out that I think it applies to not just us as realtors, but to those of us who are business owners, team leaders, brokerage owners, right? That the same message that we're delivering to consumers, we need to deliver to those people who work with us and for us, right? So the businesses are going to be, those of us who are going to grow, or those of us who are keeping in active communication with our teams and our agents and our staff. And to Greg's point, communicating the certainty that we can through what's very uncertain times, right? Through emails and constant communication about where does business stand and what are we doing as business owners to protect the business and thus their businesses and their livelihoods as well.
Amen. I mean, that's your primary client. If you're a team leader or a broker or an owner, your primary client are those team members and staff, so that you can equip and support and care for them, so that they can equip and support and care for clients.
100%.
And so don't take your eye off the ball. If you're used to being in the same physical space together, you've got to double down on that now. If you're used to being virtual, turn it up. Find ways to connect even more. Greg talked about providing certainty a minute ago, and I just want to give an actionable strategy to people, because I think that's what people always want on these things. Like, what do I do now? What do I do now? And then to Greg's point, you better go do it, or don't waste your time asking the question. But one of the things we constantly train our team and coaching clients on is what I call evidence of expertise. And there's some hard ways to do that and easy ways to do that, to make it very clear that you are the calming, trustworthy, expert leader and guide and advocate. And knowing your market data right now is really important, because it's changing quickly, right? But to be able to say 2017, 18, 19, here's what April looked like. Here's what April's looking like right now. But here's the opportunity. But here's what everybody's saying to worry about. You don't need to worry about that. Here's what you need to worry about over here. And being able to be that calming voice of authority is great. But to be able on a call with a stranger who doesn't know they should trust you yet, to earn that trust and to catch their attention with authority, we try to use what we call evidence of expertise, to try to do that as concisely as you can. And some of those quick statistics often get you just enough time to earn some of that trust, right? So you're starting empathetically, you're starting with how are you doing, that kind of thing. But it's also important to say, look, I get it. You may be feeling like now is not the time, just so you have an idea of the market, so you could make that decision correctly, adequately, with wisdom. XYZ. Here's the data. Here's the stat. Here's proof I know what I'm doing. So if you were in the business in 7, 8, 9, like I was, I know Greg was, I'm not sure either of you guys were, you want to say that. Look, in 2008, when people began to become significantly more uncertain and back into indecision and just waited out, a lot of people looked back on that with a lot of regret. They wish they had taken advantage of that opportunity. Now, I don't want to pressure you into doing something. If you and your family and your finances aren't ready, then don't get yourself in trouble right now. But if you are ready, don't let that uncertainty and that media message keep you away from an opportunity that in 2022, you're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, I missed 3% interest rates on houses that should never have been discounted, but there were some low confidence sellers out there that I could have bought from. And I don't know if I'm ever going to see that opportunity again. Another line that we've been using, because it's true in our market, is this is the single best opportunity we've seen for home buyers in about 9.5 years. Basically in the last decade, this is the best opportunity for buyers. And part of that is because I don't think that unique buyer leverage is going to last. I think the seller leverage is going to come back real quick. And for our sellers, we're telling them that leverage is still there. Don't believe all that low confidence stuff. If anything, wait 6 weeks, but most likely just, stand firm and we'll be strategic. I can tell you this, if 6 weeks from today or 8 weeks from today, your property's got 45 or 60 days on the market, nobody's going to care. that day is on market is not going to be the negative, aspect that it often is. Everyone's going to know what happened and why it's been weird. So those are just a couple of nuggets that we're feeling really confident about that I would share with everybody that they can take right now.
I'll say this. I think buyers are going to be absolute gold right now. If we're going into an uncertain market, if you can really master what Todd's talking about and you can build certainty like Greg's talking about and confidence, I think buyers are going to be an amazing opportunity right now. Obviously, if you're strong on the listing side, keep that focus. But I think the buyers this is going to be a lot of fun in this uncertainty is going to be, I can tell you for one thing for certain is there's going to be people willing to capitalize on the opportunity presented. And you just have to be that person that can help them see that.
Mm-hmm.
Got a question come in. I kind of like this one. So what would you say to a realtor who has a database of leads and they've always known they should be reaching out to them and talking to them, but they've just been busy and haven't gotten around to it? And now it's been a while and they've all been sitting there in that database and they're reluctant to call them because are they even going to remember who I am? And is it okay if I talk to them now? How do you get over that? And what's a good thing to say if you were to call somebody like that?
I know.
So we've been doing it a lot, and our script is, hey, I know that you reached out to us through insert lead source a while ago, and I didn't want you to think that I forgot about you with everything that was going on. Let me ask, how are you? Right, and that just opens it up. It's the drunk monkey. We all have it, right? Everybody.
It almost gives you a good reason to reach out now because you can check in with them and just see how they're doing through all these crazy times, right?
If you have a Real Geek website, a quick place to get some wins is go and see who's actually been active on the site. The people that are returning over and over, start there. I mean, that's, if you want to get some quick wins and some confidence, start with those people. And you can see what they've been doing. You can simply start sending them some extra information on some of the properties they're favoriting. I've talked about that before, but that's a really nice little value add. So if somebody's on your site favoriting properties, hey, send them a message. Hey, by the way, here's some extra information on that property that wasn't available from the site that I wanted you to have. And then you'll start building some trust that way. So there's little things you can do to help yourself kind of make that transition a little smoother. But I think what Lisa said is a perfect strategy. Hey, you'd registered with us on our website at some point in the past. And I love that. I didn't want you to think that I forgot about you. What's new and exciting besides the world's changed drastically in the last few weeks? And then you can kind of go into that. Keep it open-ended. The more open-ended your dialogue is right now, the more they're going to open up. So don't treat it like an interrogation. That will not be effective in prospecting, I can assure you. So
I can't wait to hear what Greg's going to say in response to that.
Good. Let's hear.
I have a response, but I'm dying to hear. I'm pretty sure I know it, but I want to hear what Greg says.
And first of all, we're talking about leads that maybe we haven't been in touch with for a long time. Well, let's not make the assumption that when we actually were talking with them, that they even knew who we were.
Right.
Okay, that it's like,
they
so
won't remember you.
And the other thing is you've got to understand that every one of our databases everybody in our database is also in somebody else's database, right? Like this whole thing, my database, it's a complete joke, right? It's a name and they're in multiple databases. The good news right now is most real estate agents aren't calling their database. So when you're making calls today in your database, you're probably the only agent that has called them in the last week or two. Prior to that, they were getting bombarded. So it's just a lot easier now to get in conversations. And if they forgot who you were the first time that you called them, and they're going to forget who you are in a week from now, unless you just continue to call them. Yep. So the key is there's call reluctance and resistance shows up in the agent community, so too often, just call. Period. Stop. The other stuff is drunk monkey conversation.
That's what I was waiting for you to say. And I think the question was, what do we have to say to that agent that has never called and now they're like, well, it's been so long. What do I do? So Lisa gave you great stuff to say to the prospect when you call them. you know, and everybody's giving you good information. But here's what I would say to that agent. Call them. Shut up. Get off your butt. Call the freaking people, because the worst consequence that's available in the whole thing is you just keep doing what you're doing, which is jack squat. Nothing's worse than that. Let me tell you exactly. I've got a freaking crystal ball over here, right here. I can tell you exactly how many homes you're going to sell all those people you never called. Donut, nada, nothing. Waste of money, time, energy, effort. And the more you admit it, the goofier you look. Right? Get off your butt and just call them. It almost doesn't matter what you say, but if you say something as well crafted as what Lisa said, or any script that any of us could give you, and you don't have to apologize. Just say, hey, I noticed you had been on the website a while back. I was just checking in. How are you doing? Where's your head right now with all that's going on? Is there anything I could do to add value for you right now? And if they happen to be the one person in the history of Earth that is like, well, I signed up on August 4th, 2016, and you've never called me. You're like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Is there anything I could do that would add value? Just move on. Who cares, right? But trust me, literally no one's ever done that.
I've never heard that done. I've never seen that happen.
That's what that crazy drunk monkey has us all afraid of, is this person thinks I'm a horrible business person because I forgot to call them. And they signed up 2 years. They don't know. And if they do, they don't care. They've got so many things they're thinking about. You're not even on the list. And so I say all that really aggressively, actually as an encouragement, because there's no risk. There is no risk. There's certainly no risk greater than doing nothing. Like, you're not going to do any worse than that. So if you call 1,000 of them and have one good conversation, you're up 100%, or infinite number of quality conversations from zero chance. So that's my message to everybody that has a pile of names, phone numbers, and emails anywhere. And you feel dumb because you haven't followed a system, or you started and you stopped, or you had a bad system, or you did automation and you stopped it. Oh, well, start today. And I have this list. It's called 12 old school money-making real estate strategies. And number one is talk to lots of people about real estate. So just do that with those people that you have, and good things will happen. Everybody said it in a different way, right? But just if you'll talk to those people and you'll care about them, and then I would add, if you'll know your stuff, you care about them, and then if an opportunity presents itself, if there's motivation there, then you can educate them towards their desired outcome. Good things will happen. And I think if you'll do that 4 or 5 hours a day right now, you know, you'll do really, really, if you do it 2 or 3 hours a day right now, you'll do really, really well. If you'll do that and then follow through on it and, you know, do the appointments and Zoom stuff that comes from it right now, you'll come out of this thing with a robust pipeline that's just ready to spew success all over the place.
And you can't break anything. I always tell people that, like, you can't screw anything up. We already don't have their business, so you have absolutely nothing to lose. You can't screw it up, because it really doesn't matter at this point, because they're not doing business with us, because we've done nothing to build value and trust with that person. So trying is way better than doing nothing. And a quick tip, if you're afraid to pick up the phone or call somebody or prospect or whatever, do this exercise. Count to 3 in your head and then do it. Seriously, count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then just do it. And the courage comes after you do it, not before. Because if it came before, we'd all be beyond measure successful. But the reason why most people are successful is because they just do what they're terrified of. So 1, 2, 3, go, do it. That's it. You get 3 seconds to think about it, and then you do it. Period.
And surround yourself with people who are doing it, right? Like, I think one of the most powerful, we were talking about this before we all started, right? My team prospects, we throw it on Zoom, because if you hop onto the Zoom and see somebody else with the phone to their head and having conversations, you're not going to be the only person sitting there not having conversations, right? So if you're watching other people doing the same things, so much easier to jump in and just do it.
You know, I'll say one final thing for myself is, you know, if you guys listen to how I speak, I'm pretty much like, let's keep this thing simple. Let's check this off the list, and then we'll talk again. So one of my inspirations, and this is kind of funny, but it's actually kind of serious, is and one of my favorite coaches. His name is Mr. Miyagi. From
wax on, wax off.
Yeah, because all he said was, Danielson, wax on, wax off. And Danielson didn't want to actually just do that for days. He wanted to go on to the next step. And Mr. Miyagi wouldn't let him. Make your calls. And then when he proved that he had that mastered, he said, Danielson, paint on, paint off. And until he mastered that, they didn't go to the next level. The making calls in your database, your Real Geeks database, that's waxing on, wax off. Like if you master that right there, then you go on to the next thing. It's free. You've already paid the cost to actually capture them. There's no additional outbound cost to actually call them. Just wax on, wax off, and you'll be fine.
I had to do it. I had to do it. Kevin, I'm sorry.
Perfect.
That's what I was waiting for. When that question came, I was like, someone turn Greg loose, because what you're going to feel after Greg gets on his soapbox is like, dadgummit, that is simple. But it requires all the discipline that Jason was just talking about. It requires just freaking do it. You know, I'm not going to add anything to that. I'm just so glad you
drop the mic and walk away. That's what you do on that one.
If you're paying attention to this, myself included, like, you paid nothing to be here and you got infinitely more than you pay. Like that is the foundation that we all need to be reminded of. I know that's Lisa, that's what you're trying to remind your team of constantly. That's what I'm trying to model and remind my team of. Jason, same thing. Like, you don't have to have a calls-based business, meaning expireds or FSBOs or outbound, but you have to have a communication base. That could be your referral sources, your sphere of influence, your neighbors, your gated community, you know, your whatever influencers in your market. But if you're not just putting in the work every day, you're believing a lie. Anything else that got someone successful is highly, highly likely not to be repeatable, predictable, consistent. You can get lucky every once in a while, but someone else can't model that and repeat it. What you can model is talk to a lot of people about real estate a lot of the time, and do it when you don't want to do it, and do it when you want to do it, and do it when you feel great, and do it when you feel okay, and take a rest every once in a while, get right back to it. And when you project your numbers, that's the easy part. You're like, if I do this, that'll do this, that'll lead to that, that'll lead to that, and I'm rich. And then you don't do this and it all breaks down.
There's no shortcuts too. That's the other thing. Everybody's looking for a shortcut. And here we are talking about the importance of just connecting with people. It's not sexy. It's just, I mean, every single one of us has been successful because of action and high levels of it. And it's not sexy. I'll tell you that right now. So it's not like $1 million listing, what you see on TV. It's you got to get in there and grind. And that's the part of the show that they don't show you, is that listing that sat there for a year that they got $250,000 paychecks on. How many hours and calls and things they did behind the scenes to try and put those together. That's real estate, folks. So it's not sexy, but it can be incredibly life-changing if you treat it the right way.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this show. I think what you shared has been fantastic and inspiring. And I think it's good to keep in mind that a lot of the advice hasn't changed. I mean, what you need to do in today's market is the same that you do in any market, and that's just making a connection with people. So everybody, if you'd like to see other Keeping It Real episodes, you can go to www.keepingitreal.com. Also, we'll post this episode on the Real Geeks blog, and we'll put it up on our Facebook page too. And there's a lot of other good content in there, and a lot of it still applies today, even in this crazy market. Thank you so much, Jason, Todd, Greg, and Lisa, for being on. And we'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right. Great job, everybody.
Thanks everyone.